Me too. I appreciate you guys so much. My name is Tammy Anderson Ward, and I am the conference producer for the upcoming Energy Healing Conference happening on June 13th and 14th in beautiful Utah. And if you haven't heard about our conferences before, this is a great way for you to come and learn a little bit more about what we offer at the event itself. There's going to be over 100 vendors. We will also have different classes, networking, experiences, activities. There's really just something for everyone. And it is a beautiful create your own adventure at our conference. Today, I am so pleased I get to spotlight some of my, I feel like long time been wanting to have them be a part of our conference, literally for years. So it is my esteemed privilege to bring on the amazing Dr. Gregory Hyde and Elena Marr. They are right now residing in Indiana. And what happens when you really are able to integrate different sound, energy medicine, with the background of having a medical degree, being an MD and also PhD, and then the beautiful Elena is a naturopath. So we're going to be talking about how this all came to be, and join us for a really fun conversation today, whether you're joining us live or on the replay. This is beautiful because Greg has a beautiful intuitive side to him. It's a very personal gift that he brings to the table, something that I feel is a little bit more of a rarity in the healthcare field. Definitely not exclusive just to him, but more of a rarity. And we'll get to talk about their book. And I'm even going to be buying a book for one lucky winner. So definitely stay tuned, and you'll want to learn more about that. If you are somebody who you're really more on the evidence base and you want to see how all of this really just is like a melody and plays together very harmoniously, I want to invite you to join in for today's conversation. Their book is called Healing with Sound and the Periodic Table of Emotions, something that's unique and new and fresh. So even if you have been somebody who's been learning about energy healing for quite some time, or you're barely just joining the conversation, we want to invite you to stay in tune with this conversation today. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring them on.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, beauty. I'm so excited to have you guys be a part of this.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. We are excited to be here today. We are super excited to be joining you in Utah in the conference and being a part of this and just getting to know other people and practitioners and sharing what we do. Very exciting.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, tell us a little bit about how you guys got into this. Let's start the conversation there.
Yeah. So, I've been a naturopath for now 18 years, a very long time. I started off studying industrial chemistry in Italy. Industrial chemistry. Cool. It's like, oh my God. Right. And then realized pretty quickly through my own health journey that that I needed to really connect with some parts of my body because I had some health issues, and, taking medications or herbal remedies or food or, acupuncture, I tried it all. But, I figured out that there was something that I was drawn to do to really, ultimately we go into a path of helping others because we're helping ourselves. Right. And so I kind of got into natural health, and then figuring out that also as a naturopath, that still was able to kind of help people by mitigating some of the symptoms or helping some of them through their health journey. But, some of the things were not quite fully resolving. And I kept asking myself, what else is missing? And I realized that it was the emotional part, the trauma. That, even doctors, medical doctors, they say, well, don't worry so much, you're going to get an ulcer. Or don't be so angry, always so angry, your liver is going to really suffer. or when we have a lot of grief, we can get lung issues or heart. So I figured out, well, if there is a physiological response to those emotions, what else is going to happen if we have chronic stress at work? If we had a difficult birth as a child, if we're being rejected in the workplace, if we feel that, our voice is not validated, how else is that going to affect our body? And so unless you really address that emotional part and how that affects our physiology, then we're really never going to get whole, one with all the pieces of our body that were broken at some point in our life or even in our ancestors' life, right? So that's where I kind of how I developed my practice. And then I met this wonderful man. How did you come into?
How did I come into this? Well, I grew up in the Seattle, Washington area, and that's where I attended medical school after doing my undergrad there in Utah. And I had always wanted to be more in the preventive or wellness side of medicine. In fact, I remember talking to my pre-med advisor. He said, well, what specialty are you interested in? I said, preventive medicine. And he said, there's no such thing. I said, what? I still went on to medical school, and I guess I'm inventing that specialty now, or to some extent. But I studied ear, nose, and throat, and during my residency was at the University of Washington, was given the opportunity to do some research. So I turned that into a PhD in neurophysiology, studying what makes brain cells live and die, using hearing loss as a model. So, and I thought I was going to be an academician and do research and, change medicine that way, but that wasn't God's plan. I was such an enigma because no resident had ever gotten a PhD before that they didn't quite know what to do with me. So ended up going and starting a practice in Oklahoma. And about 3 years into my practice, I had my own kind of life-changing event with a health crisis. Lost half my vision. I had no perception of anything in the left side of my visual field, and had a grand mal seizure and a bad headache, and turned out that I had an abscess in my brain that got there somehow. And in the process of recovering from that, I learned a lot about myself and a lot about the type of medicine that I'd been taught to create healing with. I had several complications with 2 other illnesses as a result of the treatment for the primary one. And it really woke me up that, I've been taught to create health using toxins. And that just doesn't work. You can stop a runaway train, in the tracks kind of thing. And that can be of use at times. But the idea that, you can actually restore health and balance to the body, with toxins, no, not so much. In that healing journey, because I was practicing in Oklahoma at the time, I had a good friend who was actually a Native American medicine man. And he showed up at my door after I got home from the ICU and handed me a cedar flute and said, Greg, this is your flute. If you play it, your vision will come back. And for some reason, I believed him. And God had prepared me because I had been a woodwind player in band, for years and years. I played the clarinet, looked kind of like a clarinet. I thought, I think I can make a sound out of this thing. And Tammy, it did. It brought my vision back. I'm trained as a surgeon. And so in order to get privileges back, I actually had to go and map out all my visual fields at the University of Oklahoma ophthalmology department. And they put me in the machine and I hit the button every time I saw the little white light in my visual field. And the doctor looked at that and said, well, that can't be right. Let's run that test again. Put me in the machine again. I did it again. And he looked at the other and he says, well, that's just like the first one. I said, well, what's the problem? He says, the problem is there is no problem. You have perfect vision. You had a neurosurgeon in the back of your brain thinking you had a brain tumor, and you had a destructive infection in there. You should have some defects in your vision, and you have none.
That's cool.
And so that was God kind of hitting me upside the head saying, you think you know something about the way the body works. But what you need to do is to figure out how sound controls our physical nature. Because it was the playing that flute. Okay. Years later, I always wondered, how did my friend Steve know how to make the flute, where to put the holes, how to create the tones that would get such a dramatic response from my body? And I later learned that he actually had probably come to my ICU room when I was totally gorked out on meds and having had seizures and whatnot, and measured my body and built the flute based on my body proportions, literally my body's wavelength, if you will. And that's why it resonated with me and was able to have such a profound healing effect. So that was in 1998. And since then, I have studied sound as a form of healing in all the different traditions that I can find that have ever existed on the earth. From the Egyptians to the Taoists to the Native Americans and Catholics, the Gregorian monks. I mean, it's there's lots of use of sound. And the interesting thing is that the whole creative story and all of the different religions I've studied all have sound as the primary motivator. God spoke, things happened.
Yeah.
That's sound. Okay. So it's sound that manifests our physical property and creates it from the life force, the energy around us. So that was the path I was on when I met Elena at a conference in Dallas. And
we realized actually that we had studied the same kind of sound healing
with the same practitioners.
With the same practitioners.
Some of the pioneers, John Beaulieu,
Eileen McCusick, that I think is.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because we're like, did you do this? Yes. Did you do that? And so before we even met, we are actually studying the same things. And, when we came together, then we realized that we could use sound to interface, with the human biofield, but also not just with the, our emotion and, what's held in different organs, but we can also have let's call it a conversation, a conversation with our estrogen, progesterone, vitamin A, B vitamins, our relationship with grounding, our relationship with our higher self, and just kind of, realizing that there is a whole other language. The vibration of the tuning fork changes with each one, giving us information about what does the estrogen actually really mean. Is there a meaning? Oh, wow. I didn't know antimony sounded like indecisions. Antimony is indecision. That's why it's the periodic table of emotions, because every single mineral in that periodic table has a very specific vibration that really coincides with a specific emotion. So does the viruses and bacteria and pathogens. And, sometimes we're really battling with like, why am I so low in this, And that thing that we're low in is forgiveness, or it could be gratitude, or don't be afraid to try something this time. I know it didn't go well the first time. So those are actually specific vitamins, specific amino acids. And that's why we are low in something, not because we've done something wrong, but because it tells us about something that we're searching, and it's right there. We just need to open our eyes. And that is something that we need more than other people. So sometimes we'll say, oh my gosh, what have I done? Elena, my zinc is so low. No matter what I do, my zinc is low. Well, it's not maybe that it's low. You may need it more than other people do because of who you are. We may need something sometimes because of who we are, not because we are wrong.
Right? Wow, that's really beautiful. Well, living here in northern Utah and even into Idaho, a lot of people are deficient in vitamin D. So I'm sure that you know. So tell me about that.
I can't wait to I can't wait to talk about this when I get there. I think if that's okay, or would you like me to?
Sure.
Well, you can
that's totally fine.
Yes, absolutely. So vitamin D. Yeah, well, first of all, it's interesting because obviously working with a medical doctor, I can see that some of our clients are, no matter what we do, their vitamin D is still kind of low, and some others, they just get, even if they're low, the vitamin D, once it's supplemented, goes up really well. Well, there's a difference whether a person's born in the summer versus they're born in January or December. They might not need as much vitamin D as somebody that was born in July or August. So that's a big difference. So, we are kind of generalizing on the blood work. Everybody needs this. But the problem is everybody, what is normal for you may not be fitting what's on the chart, in the blood work that is needed.
Right.
That's the first thing. Second thing is vitamin D is all about really following the rhythm of the sun, right? So when the winter comes and we get, especially on the north side, the further north you go, the less sun we have. In the winter, it's about really following the rhythm of the sun and resting a little more. So, how about waking up at 10 a.m. and going to bed, or retiring for the day at 3 p.m.? How many of us can truly do that?
Wow.
So
We don't.
We
We
don't.
work as hard in the winter as we do in the summer.
Yes. And so, we have some friends and family in Utah, and we know like they're really very, dedicated. And a lot of times in the winter, they work really hard as they work in the summer. So when you work as hard in the winter as you work in the summer, vitamin D helps your body, tricks your body into believing that you're getting as much energy from the sun as if it was summer. So really, is this kind of like, the perfect way of living? Well, I wish we all could take a break and just go and hibernate in the winter. But unfortunately, with the busy life that we all have, that's why we need to supplement in the winter to really give that extra kick into our system that we normally would get from the sun in the summer. Okay, does that make sense? You there, Tammy?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry. Sometimes on Sundays, everybody's watching movies.
Yeah. So it's, thank God that we have the supplementation available, but really it's about, just being aware that on sometimes when we need, we fall in December and we are sick, and you haven't taken enough vitamin D. Well, that's because really the body just needs rest. And we haven't been able to just give it enough, TLC in the winter. And so that's the reason.
That's beautiful. Well, you can tell that you guys literally are so different from other people. If you had to kind of pin it on one thing, what would you say is like the main difference that
Absolutely
kind of sets you guys apart a little bit?
Yes, the biggest difference in what we do, because we've also had, our own health journey going to other doctors, but the biggest difference is we do not have a protocol. Everybody is unique. People say, oh, you have a practice with a bunch of supplements there. I can't have a practice with a bunch of supplements because some people may need a flower essence. Some people may need a certain food. Some people, if the estrogen level's off, some people may need certain, a biological hormone. Some people may need tofu. Some people may need black cohosh. Some others may need sesame seed. Why are the remedies so different? Each remedy fits a certain personality and a certain type of stress that the person is going through at that moment. So no, I can't carry, it would be impossible. I just need a huge warehouse, right? So I would say that the biggest difference is that we look at the physiology as well as the emotional terrain when we put together a protocol for a person, because we think both of them are very, very important. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we use tuning forks basically, and these vibrate at the wavelength of our body of creation, and it creates a coherent sound where all the sound waves are in sync with each other. And so when we then, with our mind energy, focus on the body, then we can actually figure out, well, what's out of harmony here. And then once we find that, we can also identify when it went off track. And a lot of times, we'll give them an age. When you were this many years old and this many months, something happened in this area of your body. Does that mean anything to you? And that brings it from a subconscious to a conscious level. And that then allows you to make changes. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then once we have got the body's attention type of thing, then we can present different options as nutraceuticals, as colors, as positive affirmations, whatever it may be.
Even sometimes like a medication.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes prescription medicines can be helpful that way. And we can also look at their current medications and give them an idea of what their body thinks about them. So we're literally translating how their body feels about what they're doing, whether it be nutritional supplements or prescriptions or whatnot. And as we're tapping on the tuning fork type of thing, when we get to the right answer for their body, the vibration changes as if they've already ingested that, or that it's already had an effect. We can feel a normalizing response. Just like that. And so that's very unique and very powerful, because then we can scan through thousands of options type of thing. We use nutraceutical pharmacy companies basically, and you will have basic ideas of the types.
Or sometimes we just
go through and they'll want one manufacturer and not another for whatever reason, where it was sourced or the integrity with which it was packaged.
And sometimes I would ask, as a naturopath, I would ask, is there anybody near you that would have any dandelion, anybody that would have peppermint? Just go to your local farmer, find some of that. That's what you needed. That's when the message went off. That was the plant that you needed to hear the message and to integrate something that was traumatic.
Right.
So, really, sometimes I'm from Italy, and sometimes it's like I need the bergamot, which is kind of like
it's a bitter orange.
But bergamot from here, I need it actually shipped straight from Italy to help me. It's just I don't think that there are not many practitioners that have kind of both sides of the arts and the science like we do, and just both, looking into the emotional terrain together with the physiology.
Right.
Well, I love it. It's so beautiful. Now, when you guys come to the conference in June, I have a question for you. I know you're going to be teaching, a class, but tell me a little bit more about what you're going to be doing at your vendor space. If somebody wanted to come and connect with you, how would they do that?
I'm just going to tell them, how amazing their body is. Because sometimes, we kind of listen to people, and I realize the biggest thing, people are just really not aware that they have an incredible potential. And so reading through people's bodies, you really feel like, oh my God, there's an incredible kind of creative sense for something. I remember do you remember the client who was with metal? And she's, I said, well, you really seem to be really good with metal. And that was the weirdest thing that came up. And she said, well, I actually always thought about making my own jewelry, but I've never started. Wow. So, it's just really kind of coming up with not what their people have done wrong, but what do they need to hear or do or take, in various forms to really be their true self and be the best that they can be.
I love it. It's almost like a recipe that is very personalized, not cookie cutter, but very much for that person, their frequency, their own signature, if you will. I just love it. This is awesome.
Yeah. I always said to Grace, what's the Christmas present we get today? Because every time we work with someone, we are excited to hear what beautiful things they have to share. And, we are honored that they trust in us. And so I feel like it's a Christmas gift, and I'm looking inside. I'm like, wow, I had no expectation this was happening. And we learn from all these Christmas gifts. We learn from people, and then it is the person that really tells us what they need. It's not us. So many times we have to take forget everything you learned in medical school.
Working on it.
But also forget the fact that I'm thinking oh my gosh, I just need, something very specific, like oregano for people's candida, or I need to go on a free diet. And the person teaches me that that's not at all what they need for their candida issues or challenges. They teach me what they need. But it's generally never something I already had in mind or something that I learned before. It could be something totally new. So I learned because we are just kind of humble observers holding space for others.
Yep.
Oh, I love it. Well, we're getting some comments of people who have worked with you that are coming in right now. Amanda Bishop says, Dr. Hyde and Elena have helped my family and myself tremendously. So that's beautiful. We have another one. Lydia Pearson says, my husband and I both have had great healing experiences with them. So that's beautiful. And then a question that's coming in right now. What do you call the work you do with tuning forks, and how is your approach different from traditional tuning fork therapy?
Yeah, we've actually named what we do to differentiate it from Eileen's work and John Beaulieu's work. We call what we do sonic alignment. So it's a way of basically using the tuning fork and probing on a either an organ or an area or down to a molecular scale, the whether things are in harmony or not in the body. Okay, and then with the tuning fork, we can also release energies, and we can also introduce treatments, things that will enhance the frequencies that are needed in that area of the body, be it a homeopathic or a vitamin supplement or a certain type of diet, foods introduced. And so that's what we call it, sonic alignment.
Yeah. And, I think that we look a lot, listening to the physiology, we look a lot at people's spine is one of the first things we look at, especially the cervicals. We look at people's teeth. And it's interesting how if anybody's had a trauma in the first 7 years of life, which very often it happens, they will always have an issue with that one vertebra. It's like, oh yeah, how do you know I had something happen at age 3? My cervical C3. Oh yes, that's what my chiropractor tells me. They will also have an issue with the alignment of one of the teeth that was actually developing during that age.
Right.
So we bring, things into alignment to try and see like what went off, when, how can we bring it back? And generally those, when we start an evaluation, we really listen to people's teeth a lot. We listen to the spine. We don't necessarily go through every chakra, and just, what's going on with the liver and stuff like that. But we just start with that. And also the first cervicals, are so, important, the alignment, because it gives us kind of like the, how you call it, 7 years of our life, the first 7 years.
Yeah, the first 7 years of our life is literally when we're coming into this world. I mean, we're born at birth, obviously, but we're not really fully energetically connected to our bodies for about 7 years. And when we die, it takes 72 hours to disconnect energetically from our bodies. 3 days. So, and
the seven vertebrae here on the cervicals, actually, they are the representation of the 7 chakras, just upside down.
Upside down.
Yeah. That's so beautiful, you guys. Well, I have another question for you. Because you guys, the kind of work that you work with so many different components of the body, including sound. I would just like to ask you, is there a relationship between like emotions, hormones, vitamins, minerals, neurotransmitters? Like, how does all of this come into play? What is that relationship?
Yeah. So, when I was like, one day I was listening, we do, my husband does a lot of work with female hormones. And I was just like, wow, that's just this vibration that I know. It's a very specific vibration. So after 10 plus years of working with vibration, what happens, you develop a language, to where what each sound means. At the beginning, you can tell, okay, this is a good vibration, this is just chaos, or this is like out of harmony. But there is a million different vibrations in between. And so I'm listening, using the tuning fork, and listen to the progesterone. And I'm like, why is everybody having so many issues? And these people having issues with progesterone. Well, it's about, it has a vibration of, what am I going to do next? What am I going to create? Right. So progesterone goes up during pregnancy, or
that's how it got its name, progestation.
And then we find a lot of people after they're done giving birth, they're really sometimes searching, what is my purpose now? What am I supposed to do? What am I going to create? And I remember my estrogen being way off. And then, once I found my purpose and I'm doing this, he's like looking at my estrogen, saliva test, blood work, well, you name it. And it's like, wow, your progesterone is really so much better. What's going on? I found my purpose, right? Which is, sometimes we're like, oh yeah, it is. A lot of women say, he's taking care of my grandchildren. He's taking care of my children. He's taking care of that. What helps you as a person? What is something that just fills your heart with joy and that you create? It's not about us taking care of others. I know that brings us joy, but it's different than finding our own purpose, our own individual purpose. And so when women find that, they really kind of like, they don't need much help with progesterone. It just goes up. And it's the same with testosterone and the 3 different types of estrogen. And so, explaining the meaning, just the awareness, that's what it means. That's not a judgment. That is just becoming aware there's something there. The body's trying to communicate something. And then, when we are ready, as the road opens up and we take that step, we'll find that a lot of these imbalances actually kind of smooth out and harmonize. So that's why I think it's very important to understand. And people say, oh, I have got this methylation issue, my MTHFR, my B9, that's terrible because I can't methylate. Well, what does that really mean? Folate means I am moving forward in life with kind of a childhood innocence, without doing any planning, just going with the flow, and whatever happens to me happens.
Surrender.
So no wonder we all have issues. So, a lot of people come to us, I'm doing this methylation stuff and taking all the B vitamins, but I think something's still off. Well, maybe because somebody's telling you, take it day by day and go with the flow, and you've got a big exam coming up in a week, or you got a big event or something that you're really concerned about. You want to buy a new house, change your job. Maybe that's not a good time to take your B vitamins. So it's all about when to take it, and understanding that some days when we are chilling and relaxing, maybe the weekend is the best time to take those vitamins. Maybe not all the time, maybe not every day, because they force us to be someone that we are not quite ready to be yet.
Wow, this is so insightful, you guys. I literally have been, just as you've been sharing, a little bit more about what you do and from your heart, I literally have found myself getting a little bit emotional, because I hear what people think that you are it. Like, I am so excited. I know your class is going to be so full. So you guys, huge tip, if you're coming to the Energy Healing Conference in June, make sure you get to their class early. I just really feel that a lot of people are going to be resonating with this.
And we're going to dance before our talk. So
that's also what makes us unique.
We are both dancers.
We're
So
both dancers.
we're going to get people to dance, and we're going to dance. So
that is so
cool. It's just like, I feel like the Ellen DeGeneres of the day, it's just kind of coming through and, moving that.
That is awesome. I love it.
Why
you guys
not?
are amazing.
Why not? It is what makes us unique as well. You don't get many doctors, husband and wife, that both dance. So, we'll have some fun with people that way too.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're so thrilled to have you guys coming all the way from Indiana. I'm so thrilled. Greg, this question's for you. Can you tell us a little bit about, some people would call it an intuitive gift or a talent or something that just comes very naturally to you. How is that showing up for you, and how does that allow you to help other people to heal?
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely something that I became aware of kind of early in my life, of an ability to connect with people, to hold space. I now understand with my work with Elena for the last 8 years that part of it was because I was born at a time where calcium is a dominant mineral in the soil structure and whatnot. And so I'm a calcium personality. Well, what does calcium mean? Someone who can give shelter, who can build a shell, help people feel safe.
Yeah.
And so that's just inherent in the way that I am, that my model of body, so to speak.
I have to say, so he is a representation of being born at a time of the year where he's in alignment with who he was supposed to be all along.
Yeah.
So sorry.
Elena, as you can probably tell, is an iron. She's like, don't get in her way.
She's Italian, right?
She wants it. She's on task.
I never give up.
Nothing can stop her.
Yeah.
So anyway, but because of that, because I've had this ability to help people feel safe, they'll open.
Yeah.
Maybe even non-verbally type of thing. And I remember my first day of medical school, one of the very first lectures, the guy that was speaking, he said, if you ever connect emotionally with your patients, you'll commit emotional suicide every day.
Yeah.
And that just like, what? I almost got up and walked out. If I hadn't paid all that tuition already, I might have. But
well, you wouldn't be here now.
I wouldn't be here now. Okay, so but I'm a little bit of a rebel, and so I just said I'm not gonna buy into that. I'm not gonna drink that Kool-Aid. I'm gonna continue to try to connect to people in a meaningful way, whether it be verbally or non-verbally type of thing. And so once I got in the latter stages of medical school, where you're doing clinicals and you're actually participating in the care of the patients, and then in residency as well, I could find that if I would just hold space for the people and let them talk, but then listen to the inner impressions that I got while they were speaking, maybe not exactly the message that was coming out of their mouth, but just connecting with their body, and let their body on its subliminal ability connect with mine and inform me about here's what's going on, that I would get these premonitions about very unique esoteric imbalances, things like that going on. In medical school, you're taught, well, you've got these symptoms, and so you come up with all these different diagnoses that could cause these symptoms. And then you do tens of thousands of dollars worth of tests, kind of proving or disproving each one. Well, I would listen to my intuition. I would order a couple tests, and more often than not, they would come back and confirm what my intuition was telling me. And I would take it to my senior resident and said, I've already got these test results back. Can we go ahead and start some treatment tonight? And they would say, sure, this is great. Awesome. And so they would have had, 8 to 12 hours of treatment. By the time you come around the next morning with the attending, the professor who's teaching you, and you present the patient, and the patient will look at him and say, well, but all those symptoms are gone now. Can I go home?
Wow.
And the professor would look at them and look at me and go, Hyde, you're not doing it right. And I'm like, what do you mean? They're better. Ready to go home. I said, no, you're doing it wrong. You didn't do the differential diagnosis. You didn't order the tens of thousands of dollars worth of tests. How did you know just to do those tests? And I said, I don't know. I just did.
That's cool.
Well, they tried to beat that out of me, literally. I mean, just
didn't work.
It didn't work. It didn't work. It's unfortunate how inhuman much of the medical education is in this country. And if I could change it, I would. And maybe developing a different type of medicine, which is what we're doing, is the way to do that.
Yeah, because I really believe in what we're doing, in the mix of the two.
Yeah.
And it just there's a place for Eastern and Western medicine, and it's a place for everything. It's just knowing how to use them both, for each person.
It's wonderful to have had the blessing of all that gift of knowledge as far as how our body works, the scientific research that there is into the physiology, how things work on a molecular scale, the DNA and so forth. But now I'm learning why it works that way. Mm-hmm. And the way that we work together is Elena, with her intuitive gifts, she can find problems and visualize relationships. And then she'll turn to me and say, well, why would that be that way? And for some reason, I can connect dots. I don't know. Yeah. I can see how things can align and how this might all be connected as part of a uniform way in which the body works. And so for the last 8 years, we've come to realize relationships in the body that, to us, nobody else has ever put together. Type of thing. And so we feel now that we need to share that information with other people about how this gift of our body works and how to keep it optimally healthy. So at this phase in our career, rather than trying to figure out how to see more patients, we're like, let's teach other people how to do this, because there's only two of us. It's hard to upscale what we do. We do have to sleep sometime.
Yes, you do. Okay, well, I want to make sure that people know how to connect with you guys. So I'm going to go ahead. If you're watching right now and you're like, how do I get a hold of these guys? Whether you're at our conference that's coming up in June or not, I want to make sure you have all of their information. So let me go ahead and put this up here. And by the way, if you're interested in being the winner, I'm going to be purchasing one of their books and sending it out to someone. If you are interested in being one of the winners and receiving that book, will you please just go ahead in the comments and put one word and one word only. That word is sonic. I'm going to have you guys be very intuitive about this word choice, right? The word sonic. Go ahead and put those down in the comments, and I will choose a winner here in the next 5 minutes. So that's all you have to do. And then we'll go ahead and I'll, message you privately and get your address so that I can have that shipped out to you. But their website is Vita, however you want to say that, right?
It's Latin for life.
It's like La Bella Vita.
The beautiful life.
That is awesome. Vita.science. Yes. And then here is their private email. So please go ahead and reach out to them. They're fantastic, obviously. I just love your guys' personalities, how you flow together. And I feel like I could relate with you on so many stories, even to the point where I went to a powwow near my home and I bought a flute that was literally designed for the heart chakra when I was working on heart healing.
Wow.
But the issue was I never could learn how to play it. So I still have it, but I've never learned to play it. But
the key is you breathe into it. You don't blow into it. You breathe into it. It's a very gentle breath. I was used to playing a clarinet where you just, you have to generate a lot of force to vibrate the reed. And it took me actually a while to make a sound on my flute until I realized, no, you just have to relax and breathe into it. And then it makes this beautiful sound. So
that is so cool. I bought that on my birthday a few years ago. So I've saved it all this time. Cause I'm like, I'm not getting rid of this, but I want you guys to reach out to them. It's happytohelp@vita.science. Did I do that right?
Yes. Perfect.
Love you speaking Italian.
I used to live in Queens and I actually lived by a bunch of people that were from Italy, and I would go to their house on Sunday and they'd been cooking for like 12 hours.
Yes.
That's how they show love.
Yeah.
It was the sweetest thing. I felt that for sure. So in addition to their emails, if you would like to go ahead and sign up for their courses and past newsletters, you can do that at this link right here and get you guys connected with them for sure. Or you can send them an email and ask for that if you didn't get the whole thing right there. But I do have another appointment, so I want to make sure that I'm able to give this gift away. I'm going to give you guys 2 more minutes. So if you're watching right now and you would like to win their book, just go ahead in the comments and type out the word Sonic, and then we'll have you guys entered in for that. But I do have one more question. This one is for you, Elena, and that is, I would like to know a little bit about, how different culture beliefs, social and environmental factors can have an effect on our physiology and our health. And while these last few comments are coming in for the book, we'll have you answer this question.
Yeah. So, it's this, I could speak for hours on this one. But, one of the misconceptions about, for example, viruses and bacteria is that, they kind of come in and invade our body and they, do all kinds of damage. But in reality, they're actually there to really clean up some of the inflammation that we have in our body. Lyme disease, and you're going to find this in an article called "The Lyme Has Quirky Needs." But there's a doctor that did some research. I can't remember her name now, but I can certainly, if you send me an email, I can share that with you. That talks about how Lyme disease feeds off of an oxidative manganese. So it basically, iron, zinc, copper, and manganese can be in an oxidative form, kind of causing some inflammation. And these kind of pathogens can just kind of eat up and feed off of the inflammation to survive. So it's the inflammation that is at the cause of this. So manganese, with Lyme disease, we have some emotional component. I'm not going to go through in detail, but one of them is kind of the rejection of something that we don't know or don't understand. It could be within ourselves, where people that are very, scientifically minded and they reject their intuitive side, their feminine side, or it could be that we're going into a community and then we feel that we don't belong there. We feel that people are just kind of setting us apart. So I study and I research manganese, and I found out that the place with the highest amount of manganese is actually in South Africa. And in the 1930s and 40s, they started kind of digging out the manganese mines. And we've gotten a lot of kind of something that God created a balance there on the earth, gets dug out of the earth, and we get a manganese toxicity. To where, what does the manganese toxicity do? Actually, manganese toxicity, and you can find this in homeopathy, is all about really feeling like you are not worthy to belong to a group and that you are segregated. So what happened then in the 40s and 50s on and 60s and 70s in South Africa? What do we have?
Apartheid.
Apartheid. So you see how the meaning of that mineral that Lyme diseases feed on is exactly corresponds to that vibration of really rejecting and isolating a group of people. Whether it's us, we feel that our family doesn't understand us, we don't belong there, or whether it's we reject a part of ourselves that we consider weak, right? So we have this separation a lot in Lyme disease. There's lots of other factors, but this is one of them. And so it's interesting for me to see that really when we get something that should be in alignment, we get off of alignment, then Lyme disease comes and says, well, let me help you take care of this. But the message of Lyme is really to accept and to really look into curiosity with someone or something of yourself that you may not understand, right? And so, I just look at all of those different things. So it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting. There's so many. I really wish I could talk for hours, but
I know. I'm like, seriously, like
this is a passion. This is a passion of mine. Yeah.
I appreciate you guys making time on your day off today on this beautiful Sunday for coming here and sharing this with us. I appreciate it so much. I literally have looked at each one of these names and tried to be intuitive about who I'm choosing. And I feel like I want to choose the name Jessie Stewart. So Jessie Stewart is joining us today from YouTube. If you can go ahead and send me an email, I'd be happy to go ahead and order a copy of their book and have it shipped to you. This is going to be my email right here, Tammy@hopehavenevents.com. And then I can go ahead and get your mailing address from you at this particular email. That way you don't have to put it out, for everyone to see. You can send it to me privately, and then I'll go ahead and send you the book. But anyway, I'm so appreciative of you. Do you guys have any last closing thoughts that you'd like to share with us today before we're done?
What about the transformation, the disease that we translate it?
Yeah.
Treat.
Many people that are in healthcare think that they're, treating disease, curing illness and things like that. Early on with my own health experiences and really listening to my patients, I've recognized that my gift is as a guide, that they are the healers.
Yeah.
That each of us have a stewardship or responsibility over our body, and our bodies have the ability to heal themselves if you understand the message and have somebody help you decode it.
Yeah.
And so that's the way we approach people with their healing, is that rather than managing disease or whatever, we actually translate.
You say we don't treat disease, we translate it.
Yeah. Wow. We help people understand what their body is trying to communicate to them. And then that opens doors to a higher level of function, a greater connection with their body, and renewed appreciation and love for the gift of their body, even though it does get older every day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, I appreciate you guys so much. That's so beautiful. I'm very, very excited to have you come to our conference. It's all happening on June 13th and 14th there in Utah. And Greg, I know you have surgery on Friday, so you won't be coming till Saturday. But we're just so excited to have you guys be a part of this conference. This has been years in the making to have you both come to this conference. So I'm grateful. It's all about the timing, right?
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah, it is. It is. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you very much for having us today.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Well, we'll see you guys in a few weeks. Sounds good.
Ciao, 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 ciao.
Ciao. Thanks, everyone.